Look at this drawing I made. Pretty cool, huh? What if I told you I spent 28 hours on this? She went through several different designs. And to think, it all started from a simple text. I was totally on board. We've done things like this before, whether it was making ourselves as monsters or both designing vampire OCs. It was just this idea that I really struggled with. I actually had one thought in my mind, a style called Art Nouveau. I got this idea during a call with my friend Didi. We were talking about our vampire OCs when they mentioned this style, and once I looked it up, I couldn't get it out of my mind. So, as I was scrolling through Pinterest, going deeper into a rabbit hole, I stumbled upon a picture that sparked an idea. I could make a collage, compiling symbols of luck and forming a cohesive color palette. This collage ended up sticking with me for the entire designing process. Speaking of designing, let's talk about the first thing I put on the page. I know, I'm a genius. Who else could think of adding their haircut and a draped cloth? This is pro level. For my second try, I actually had a reference, giving me the idea to turn these gold pieces into lucky coins. But I gave up on that pretty quickly. For this try, I was inspired by this photo, especially by this thing called a wimple, I think. Whatever it is, it definitely made me pivot to a more medieval princess vibe. That princess thing led me to this image. I love wearing headbands, so when I saw hers was vaguely horseshoe shaped, I latched onto that. I was trying to add a bit more of me to this design, thus the big blanket. Which carries on to the drawings that was so close to being the finished product. The blanket turned into a quilt, with the design showcasing a couple lucky symbols. The horseshoe headband stayed on, while the wimple came and left. I even added an eye covering to try and show blind luck. But ultimately, I didn't know how I felt about her. I honestly didn't touch it for a day or two, until while I was doom scrolling, I saw a light at the end of the tunnel.
Breaking down my concept art portfolio project.
I watched all the parts and got pumped up to continue my work. He had so many clever ideas, but what really got me was his rendering style. These lines really drew me in, and I wanted to try it for myself. So I did, by trying it out in these curtains. It was at this point that I considered pivoting from the goddess of luck to the goddess of sleep, as luck was just such an abstract concept, but I ended up sticking with it. I then added some bells, mainly because I wanted to draw more bells since my witch drawing, and also they just so happened to bring good luck. During my research, I stumbled upon a good luck knot, so I added that to the background as well as to the character. Now, on to the final design. There was a brief moment where I almost went with a more bathrobe look. I don't know if you have noticed, but I did something I don't normally do. In my old sketches, they were black and white and very simple, but this time I sketched with color. Shout out my sister for this embroidery idea. It's very clever and I quite liked it. I'm going to talk about the design choices from the top to the bottom, starting with the hair. I added my bangs and put her hair in a bun, which resembles a flower, inspired by two different lucky flowers, violets and lotus. The two strands that come out of the bun are inspired by ladybug antennas. And of course, I've added the horseshoe headband. Onto her outfit. I wanted it to look comfortable but also elegant. I did follow my sister's advice and embroidered lotus flowers onto the purple part. On one of her sides, I added ladybug wings. This was because I wanted a more asymmetrical outfit to try and hone into the fact that luck is unpredictable. The green skirt was added since if it was one long purple robe, it would seem too mature, and I wanted her to be more playful. This playful aspect was also brought into the shoes, as it's easier to play in sandals than in heels. I feel it's time to mention the accessories. She has coins going around her waist and shoulders, with a bell hanging off the end. There's also strings with tassels hanging off many parts. Tassels can be found on different lucky knots, so I added the tassels and knots separately, but close. The asymmetrical part I talked about earlier continues into her bracelets, and she's got one huge lucky coin as a necklace. It was around here that I saw my friend's god design, and theirs was so cool. Mine at that point just seemed like a person in an outfit, so I added some pizzazz with half a mask on her face, showing bad luck. My friend also inspired me to add an altar, showing what offerings people would make to her. On said altar, There are acorns and keys that symbolize good luck and new beginnings. I've added coins and lotus flowers to keep things consistent. The big rock is actually a whiststone and a hagstone combined. I also like the idea of ladybugs showing up at any altar made for her, so there's a couple scattered around. It was at this point that I thought of the video from earlier.
Breaking down my concept art portfolio project.
His art told a story, so I wanted to play around with world building by picturing how she might answer prayers. She'd leave it to a coin flip, with one side of the coin being her smiling and the other side is her frowning. If you wanted to challenge the coin's decision, you could play a game of rock, paper, scissors. Here are some close-ups. This what-if scenario ended up being more detailed than I'm used to, and I'm quite happy with the results. 2 of my friends did this prompt with me, and they gave me permission to show theirs. Please check out their TikToks as we will do more. In fact, as of recording this, I've already finished another what-if drawing.